Let me ask you something. When you walk into a room where there's a woman you're attracted to, what do you think she's looking at first? If you said your face, you'd be wrong. If you said your height, still wrong. And here's what's interesting. If you ask most women that same question, they'd get it wrong too. Not because they are lying, because it happens below the level of conscious awareness. It happens in the part of the brain that acts before the thinking mind even has a chance to catch up. Today, we are going to talk about what the research actually shows. Not surveys, not guesses, not opinion. Eye tracking research where scientists literally measured where a woman's gaze lands, how long it stays, and what happens after. And the results don't match what most people assume. I want to be upfront with you about something before we go further. This isn't about gaming anyone. It's not a manipulation playbook. Understanding how attraction works at a biological level is useful for both men and women. It removes confusion. It replaces myth with something grounded in actual science. So, let's get into it. There's a gap between what we think we notice and what we actually notice, and that gap is bigger than most people realize. Psychology has a name for this. It's called introspective inaccuracy, the tendency for our self reported behavior to diverge from our observed behavior. In plain terms, when researchers watch what we do versus when they ask us what we do, the answers often don't match. And when it comes to physical attraction, the gap is significant. In self reported surveys, women consistently say the first thing they notice about a man is his eyes, then his smile, then maybe his height or the way he carries himself. And those things matter genuinely, but they are not what the eyes actually go to first. The research tells a different story. And once you understand that story, not to exploit it, but to actually understand it, a lot of things about social dynamics start making more sense. Let's talk about what the eye tracking studies found. In a 2017 study focused specifically on how women visually attend to men's bodies, researchers used eye tracking technology to observe where women's gaze landed, how quickly it moved, and where it returned to. The result, the chest, the upper body, and specifically the chest region, was the first place women's eyes moved. Not the face, not the eyes, not the height, the chest, and then the broader upper body, shoulders, the torso in general, before the gaze shifted to the face and occasionally to the pelvic region. Now, before you read too much into that last part, let's talk about what that actually means. Because the meaning behind where the eyes go is not what the internet will try to tell you. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting. The visual bias toward a man's upper body, especially the chest, isn't random. From an evolutionary psychology standpoint, the chest and shoulders have historically communicated something specific: physical capacity, the ability to protect, to provide, to endure. Now, in 2025, that logic doesn't translate literally into daily life the same way it once did. Most of us aren't hunting or in physical conflict, but the brain doesn't update its operating system on a cultural schedule. The like system, the part of the brain responsible for emotional processing and attraction, still runs on older software, and that older software learned to flag upper body strength as a meaningful signal. So when a woman's eyes go to a man's chest first, she's not making a conscious decision. Her nervous system is running a fast automatic assessment before she's consciously processed who this person is. Her brain has already clocked a first impression based on physical form. This is important to understand because it means that first glance attraction is not about personality, and it's not even about the face. It's about presence, physical signal, what the body communicates before a single word is spoken. Now, here's the nuance. Just because the eyes go to the chest first doesn't mean the face doesn't matter. It matters enormously, just differently. What the research shows is a distinction between fixation and repeated glancing. When a woman looks at a man's chest or his pelvic region, she tends to make repeated brief glances, quick, almost involuntary passes. But when her gaze moves to the face, she stays there. The face creates fixation, a longer, more sustained engagement. and psychologists explain why that happens. The face is where we read social and emotional information. Eye contact tells us whether someone is engaged or avoidant. Expression tells us whether someone is confident or anxious. The micro movements of the face communicate things that no other body part can. So, here's what's actually happening in those first few seconds. The upper body gets assessed almost instantly. It registers physical presence. Then the face takes over. It registers emotional and social character. And together, those two things create a first impression that happens faster than conscious thought. That's not manipulation, that's just how humans are wired. Now, let's talk about what this actually means in practical terms, because I want to be careful here. This isn't a call to go start obsessing over your physique as some kind of strategy. That's the wrong takeaway. The right takeaway is something broader and honestly more useful. What the research is pointing to is that presence matters. The upper body signals health engagement, how you've been treating yourself. It's not about having a bodybuilder's chest. The research isn't saying that. It's saying that the physical self communicates before the verbal self has any chance to. So, what does that mean? It means posture is communication. When you're collapsed forward, shoulders rounded, chest concave, that shape tells a story. Before you open your mouth, it reads as contraction, withdrawal, uncertainty. When you're upright, chest open, shoulders settled, that shape tells a different story. It reads as presence, groundedness, someone who takes up space without apology. And this isn't just an attraction thing. Research consistently shows that upright posture affects not just how others perceive you, but how you feel about yourself. There's a feedback loop between the body and the brain. The way you hold yourself changes your internal state, and your internal state is what other people actually feel when they're around you. Attraction isn't just visual, it's energetic, and the physical form is the first channel through which that energy gets communicated. Let's come back to that gap I mentioned earlier. Women in surveys say they notice the eyes and smile first. The research shows the eyes actually go to the chest and upper body first. Why the difference? A few possible explanations, and I want to be honest that some of this is interpretation. The first possibility, what we remember isn't always what we noticed. The chest and shoulders might be processed so quickly and automatically that by the time the brain has consciously formed a memory of the encounter, the attention has already moved on to the face. So, she doesn't remember clocking the chest because it happened before she was consciously looking. What she remembers is the moment she made eye contact, the smile, the expression. The second possibility, social desirability bias. People tend to report attraction as more emotionally or interpersonally driven than it actually is in the first moments of encounter. Saying, I noticed his eyes first, sounds more emotionally sophisticated than I noticed his chest first, and it might genuinely feel more true, even if the research says otherwise. The third possibility, and I find this one most interesting, is that both things can be true at the same time. The chest gets noticed, the face gets remembered, and the face is what actually determines whether any of this goes anywhere. The initial scan is automatic, the sustained attention is chosen. And what determines chosen attention? Character, presence, how someone makes you feel once you're actually in their orbit. Let me spend a moment on the face specifically, because this is where I think the more valuable insight lives. Once the initial physical assessment has happened, the face becomes everything. And what the face communicates is not about attractiveness in the conventional sense. It's about emotional availability. Eye contact, for instance. There's significant research on how the quality of eye contact shapes social and romantic perception. Not just whether you make it, but how you hold it. A man who holds eye contact with ease, not staring, not anxious, just settled and present, communicates something that no amount of physical appearance can manufacture. It says, I'm not afraid of being seen. That is an extraordinarily rare quality. Most people, men especially, are much more comfortable looking anywhere else, at the phone, past someone's shoulder, at the floor. Eye contact feels vulnerable because it is. It exposes you. And the willingness to be exposed, to be present without hiding, is one of the most compelling things a person can project. Then there's the smile, not a performed smile, not the grin of someone trying to appear likable, the real one, the one that comes from actually being relaxed and engaged. Research on genuine versus manufactured facial expression shows that people are quite good at detecting the difference, even when they can't articulate how a forced smile is symmetrical and quick. A genuine one engages the eyes. The muscles around the eyes can't be voluntarily controlled the same way the mouth can. Women pick this up, maybe not consciously, but the nervous system registers authenticity. And authenticity, more than almost anything else, is what separates a man who's interesting from one who's memorable. So, let's consolidate what the science is telling us. In those first few seconds of encounter, something like this is happening. The upper body, chest, shoulders, posture gets clocked first. This happens automatically before conscious processing. It creates an initial rapid impression of physical presence, then the face, the eyes, the expression, the quality of attention. This is where the deeper impression forms. And beneath all of it, underneath the physical form and the facial expression, is the actual state of the person. Whether they are anxious or settled, whether they are performing or present, whether they are comfortable in their own skin or constantly managing how they are perceived, you cannot fake that for long. The body leaks information whether you intended to or not. Posture collapses when confidence is absent. Eye contact breaks when there's something being hidden or feared. The smile tightens when the social mask is working overtime. And here's the thing, the most attractive version of any man isn't a version that's performing well, it's a version that isn't performing at all. I want to say something about women here because I think this insight matters both ways. The fact that women report noticing eyes and smiles first, even when the data says otherwise, tells us something important. It tells us that even the people doing the noticing aren't always aware of what's driving their responses. Attraction is not a fully conscious experience. It's not a checklist that gets evaluated and scored. It's an emergent feeling that rises from a collection of signals, many of them processed below the surface. This is why women sometimes struggle to explain why they're attracted to someone or not. There's just something about him. I can't explain it. He's just different. That's something and that different. That's the combination of all these subconscious assessments firing at once. And knowing that, really knowing it, changes the conversation because it means that attraction isn't really about any one feature. It's about the whole person communicating through multiple channels simultaneously. The posture, the eyes, the expression, the energy, the ease or the lack of it. All of it is speaking before anyone says a word. So, what did we actually cover today? The research, specifically eye tracking studies, shows that women's eyes go to a man's upper body first, particularly the chest, before moving to the face and other areas. That contradicts what most women report when asked directly, which is usually eyes and smile, and we explored why that gap exists. The upper body communicates physical presence and capacity. The face communicates social and emotional character. Both matter, but they matter differently. The chest registers instantly and automatically. The face creates sustained attention and deeper impression. And underneath all of it, what determines whether any of this leads to real attraction is something that can't be photographed or measured by eye tracking software. Its presence, the quality of being genuinely here, settled, not performing, and that more than the width of anyone's shoulders or the symmetry of anyone's face is the thing that actually stays in someone's memory. Because physical appearance is noted in seconds, but how someone makes you feel, that gets carried for much, much longer. If this was useful, share it with someone who'd benefit from understanding this stuff through an honest lens. And if you have questions about the research I referenced, it's in the description.